Hello and welcome back. My name is Indy, short for Indecisive, and today we are going to be trying out a fun little new idea that I had in my big old brain. So I've been a big fan of the whole murder mystery genre for a good while now, and I've been trying to figure out how I can kind of do something with it while also having my own twist, which is where I kind of came up with, kind of inspired by Bailey Sarian. I feel like I totally butchered her name. I'm so sorry, Queen.
Now introducing Murder Mystery Minecraft Mondays.
As I mentioned, this was heavily inspired by Bailey Sarian, but she does murder mystery makeup Mondays. If you haven't seen those videos, please go watch them. She has her makeup while telling like the stories of like murder mysteries and stuff like that, and she does an amazing job both at the makeup and the storytelling. Of course, I'll be doing my own separate research for all of this, so hopefully with that and doing Minecraft instead of makeup, it's different enough to where it has my own little interesting twist on it. I do want to start with some disclaimers. So obviously there's the overarching theme of like death and homicide and stuff like that, but there are very specific ones to this case, which I will be going over. Please take these seriously. Your mental health is way more important to me than you attempting to support anything I do. I appreciate it and I appreciate it so much, but take your mental health seriously, Iris. I am staring directly into your soul right now. Take these seriously, and if you need to skip the video, not watch it, do whatever, do it. I have them listed here so I don't forget any of them. So there is brief mention of child neglect, physical and emotional abuse, including domestic, sexual assault, and general sexual themes, heavy gore and violence. I will not be showing anything. It's all just going to be verbal, but it will be described. Mental illness discussion, including big word, institutionalization. Self-harm is also mentioned along with the general theme of power imbalance. Again, if any of those things are triggers to you or just make you uncomfy in even the slightest way, don't feel the need to watch this video. I completely understand. I cannot stress it enough. Your mental health is way more important. I will not be showing any pictures or anything. If you want to see that, that's what Google is for. I will just be verbally kind of describing the situations. At most, I might show like a normal photo of like just like a portrait of their faces so we know who we're talking about, but that's about it. So let's get into it. Okay. This is our first episode, so we're gonna murder mystery Minecraft Mondays. Oh, how dare they? Minecraft Mondays. Yeah, see.
So, fun insert from editing Indie. The audio for like this entire thing is very messed up. I salvaged what I could. About halfway through, I end up just kind of voiceovering what I'm saying. I apologize. I'm not gonna refilm it because I don't want to. But it is arguably a little sus that happens while I'm talking about these people. I'm just saying. Anyways, enjoy. Bye.
Welcome in. This is the world that we're dealing with, and this is the first episode. And today we're going to be talking about the Papin sisters. Okay, sorry. So this is going to be interesting. I have no clue how this is actually going to work out. So the Papin sisters, there were three of them. They had a rough childhood all around. Their mother was said to kind of ignore them and pretend as if that they didn't exist. And then their father was honestly just very like abusive and also not very nice to them. So they did not have a wonderful childhood growing up. In fact, Amelia, which was the eldest, she was sexually abused by her father. Shortly after that incident, she actually moved out and became a nun. The two youngest were named Christine and Leah, who were also kind of left to fend against their father. And then eventually their parents did get divorced, but no, it's not because of the reasons you're thinking of. It's not because she was like, hey, my husband kind of like sucks as a human being and maybe I shouldn't be with him. It was because she heard about the assault with their eldest, Amelia, and got jealous. She got jealous thinking that the older sister had actually requested that and decided that that was worthy of divorce because of jealousy, not because he was a shitty human being, but because of jealousy. So that's always fun. After their divorce, the two youngest, Christina and Leah, ended up actually getting hospitalized in a mental institution because they didn't handle the whole situation well. I don't think honestly anybody would. During this is also when people still started to notice how like weirdly inseparable they were. Like it's normal to be attached to your sister, but they were just straight, only interested in each other, nothing else, fully connected at the hip. And then once they did eventually get released, they decided to work together again as housemaids. So for context, because I don't think I actually mentioned it, they lived in France. They were born in like the 1900s, the early 1900s in France. And so they worked for a lot of just very well-off families and well-off people as housemaids. Now in 1926, they actually accepted a job as a live-in maid for the Lancelin family, which is where our story begins. So just like the other families that they worked for, the Lancelin was a very well-off family. The father of the household was a retired lawyer, and then the mother and daughter were kind of just like stay-at-home family members, if you will, which was pretty typical for the time being, I would say. I want to get up this mountain. Oh my gosh. From an outside perspective, the Lancelin family treated the sisters like quite well. They stayed inside their house in the same heated home. It was like a two-story house too, so it was a pretty nice house for the time. They ate the same food as everybody else. It's not like they were served like gruel or anything. Like they ate the same food. And they were also like paid like the general standard wage for the time. However, behind closed doors, this kind of varied a lot. They would work 14-hour workdays. They would get less than a day off a week. And they actually, in their 7 years of working there, had never once spoken to Renee Lancelin, which was the like head of the house, technically who they worked for. They only ever got like directions from Lainey, the wife, and even then it was only like written directions. Like she would write it down on a piece of paper what they were to do for the day and stuff like that. The other thing is that the wife was quite picky as well. She would perform this thing called the white glove test, where she would take like a white glove, run it against like all the furniture to make sure that it was like dusted like perfectly. They said that if anything did not meet her expectations like in the slightest bit, she was known to pinch them or like do mild forms like of abuse towards them as like a punishment. And then like I said, they worked here for about 7 years until the event of February 3rd, I believe it was, February 2nd. I shouldn't be smiling before saying that. So on this particular day, Lainey and Genevieve were out shopping for the day, and they were meant to go back to Lainey's brother-in-law's house for dinner. Renee was already there waiting for them and expecting them, so was the brother-in-law, of course. The sisters were aware of this arrangement and situation as well. They were made aware of the plans, and they just kind of decided to continue on with their chores for the day while they were gone. Nothing new, just a typical day for them. And as they were like cleaning around the house, they went to plug in like an iron in the wall, and it made all of the power go out. They had like a full power outage. Obviously, they panicked a little bit at first, but then they were like, okay, they won't be home until like tomorrow night because they were supposed to stay overnight over there. We have a little bit of time. Let's just not worry about it too much right now, and we'll fix it in the morning. Honestly, I would probably do the same. Not gonna lie. I didn't realize it was about to be nighttime this quickly. One moment. Oh gosh.
Surprise!
No! I just want a bed. Oh goodness. Maybe I can find a village. Okay. Oh my god, this is so pretty though. Are you kidding me?
Okay, back to serious.
But unexpectedly, the mother and sister actually came home early. They immediately like explained what was going on. Like, hey, the power went out. We were gonna fix it in the morning because you guys weren't supposed to be back till then. And Lainey, the mother, immediately like threw into like a fit of rage is how Christine described it. And I guess during this fit of rage, something had like snapped inside Christine because she took a jug and then smashed it over Lainey's head. Let me actually, while I have the second, I'm gonna look up how to pronounce this girl's name so I'm not pronouncing it wrong.
Excellent!
Leonie.
Leonie. Oh my god, I kept saying Lainey. I'm so sorry. Okay, so Leonie. I'm gonna go over. Okay, let me get a good track of me saying Leonie and I'll just voice over Lainey. So like I was saying, after this fit of rage, I guess Christine had snapped. The daughter Genevieve immediately ran over to help her mom, and that is what caused the sister Leah to come down and help. She saw that this was happening. She was sitting at the top of the stairs at the time until she saw that things were getting pretty serious, so she ran down to help. So as she ran down, Christine started like cheering her on, saying things like smash her head into the ground, tear her eyes out, a lot of really intense commands basically, and Leah followed suit basically without question. She actually gouged her eyes out with her bare fingers. I'm literally doing something, do you mind? Anyways, after Leah literally gouged the eyes out of the mother, Leonie, Christine followed suit in doing so to Genevieve. I couldn't find anywhere online that said how long that this may have taken them, but I'm assuming it wouldn't be a quick thing to do. But even after that, they decided to, continue the event by going and grabbing a hammer, a knife, and a pot. They then took these items and repeatedly bashed them until they fell silent. And then even after they went silent, they decided to continue by lifting up their skirts and quote unquote slashing at their thighs and legs.
Hello, this is Indy from the future. So this next part, I'm not actually sure how accurate it is because I only saw one source that said it, but one report did say that they continued to baste the mother, quote unquote, in their daughter's menstrual blood, which again, very intense response. So after a little while passes, the dad starts to get a little worried because he was expecting them over at the house and they're like, they're not here, so I don't know what happened. And obviously this wasn't in the time where you could just text them, call them up or whatever, so
he decides to take a friend with him and they go back to his house to check out what's going on.
So once they get there, they realize that all of the doors are locked from the inside and there's no way for them to get in. The dad decides to call the police and kind of tells them what's going on, hey, we need somebody, I can't get into my house and I'm concerned. Eventually the police get there and they're able to break in and they immediately see both of the bodies just on the floor, practically unrecognizable at this point.
Quick interruption as I accidentally yeet myself off a cliff.
Actually.
Soon after finding the bodies, they go upstairs and they immediately see all of the weapons that they used, the pot, all of that stuff that I mentioned earlier was just sitting at the top of the steps. So once again, they weren't trying to hide what they did at all. And then once they enter the maid's room, they found them both naked in bed next to each other for whatever reason.
Both sisters immediately admitted to the crime. Neither of them even tried to deny it.
The only things that were really said was that Christine immediately clarified it was in self-defense, and Leah said something along the lines of, from now on, I am deaf and I am dumb. Basically saying she will not be talking, she doesn't know anything, don't ask her any questions. And now this is what brings us to the actual trial. The defense mainly focused on arguing mental insanity and that they weren't mentally sound during the committing of these murders.
They also cited familial outbursts. I guess one of their cousins had actually lived most of his life in an insane asylum.
And their uncle's suicide as well. There were also some psych experts that argued that they had shared psychosis due to their PTSD growing up. Shared psychosis is basically the situation in which two people who are quite close to each other share the same disorder, and it's the situation in which their delusions or their hallucinations will influence each other. This psych expert that diagnosed them unofficially with this mentioned that it was consistent with their auditory hallucinations, the idea that they created these imaginary threats and their violent outbursts in reaction to said threats. Despite all of these arguments that were made, they were seen by the court as mentally sane and therefore guilty.
Now there was multiple medical analyses done on both of them.
And generally speaking, Christine was seen to be the more dominant figure in this relationship. Some people have even said that Leah's personality almost disappeared and morphed into her sister's completely. Now, because of this analysis, Christine was seen as the main perpetrator and was therefore sentenced to death, whereas Leah was considered an accomplice and was sentenced 10 years of hard labor.
Christine was actually reported to have a psychotic break, basically.
It was reported that she actually tried gouging out her own eyes and started to starve herself, basically. They saw this and they decided to reduce her sentence to instead be life in prison, but this didn't change much. She still continued to not eat, even after getting transferred to an asylum rather than a regular prison, and she ended up dying in 1937. Leah, her sister, like I said earlier, got sentenced to 10 years of hard labor, but actually got let out after 8 due to good behavior in 1941. After that, she went and lived with her mom for the rest of her life under a false name, and there's debate whether or not she had died in 1981 or if it was 2001. Originally, people thought it was 1981 until a film in 2001 came out claiming that she was still alive. Either way, it was said that she was able to live out the rest of her life pretty uneventfully, especially under this false name, until she did eventually pass. Right about now is when I realized I haven't really accomplished much in this episode. So I kind of just took a minute to try and find something to do. So that's what I'm doing here. So upon trial starting, the case immediately caught the public eye of like everyone, especially in the cities surrounding. A lot of people thought it was a manifestation of class struggle or a rebellion against their masters. Some people even called it like an act of class warfare. So there definitely was a fight back as to whether or not they should be considered guilty or whether or not it was justified. This story actually inspired a lot of like pieces of art as well, such as like books, plays, paintings, films. Each of those also have their own theories and storylines. Obviously, no matter what the theory is or what it was, it's undeniable that this entire situation was very intense, very gruesome, and will likely be really hard to forget. Personally, I feel like it could have started as an episode caused by like trauma and mistreatment, where they most likely did feel a genuine threat, but as it like went beyond that, I'm not exactly sure how much that idea can be applied. I could see how the beginning where Christine smashes the milk jug over her head, how that could be reactionary and a very spur of the whim moment, but beyond that, it gets hard to justify. But yeah, feel free to let me know your theories or anything that I may have missed in the comments. Do you think that it was an act of rebellion? Do you think it was self-defense? Or do you think like the court should have labeled them mentally insane and they shouldn't have been... Oh. See... Okay, I wasn't gonna talk about this, but there's been a lot of weird things happening all of a sudden with me talking about this stuff. So, yeah, take that however you will. I don't know if that was a confirmation or a denial. I guess let me know what you think. And if you have any other like suggestions or any other stories that you want me to cover, please feel free to also comment that. I will say that I am more comfortable covering stories that are a bit older. I'd rather stay away from topics where some of the people are still alive, just because I feel like it's just a little bit uncomfy for me to cover those topics. And yeah. Dang it, even my outro got cut out. Oh my god! Right as I press record. I guess this is the outro. Bye. Yeah, peace out, Girl Scout. Mwah.